All right. So on our team website, we've got these tables, and they are normalized to your 6-minute test pace. So if you went 1,850 meters in 6 minutes, you average 77.9 seconds per lap. And on sheet one, we'd see whatever 110% of that would be. So if we were doing a real speed workout, we'd be on the 110% sheet. And then sheet two is 105. Sheet three is right at 100%, which is going to be what we call our VVO2 max, which I'll cover in another video. And we're going to talk a lot about 90%, 85%, 80%, and even 75%. Those are really super important for us training for long duration cross country races. So I'm going to jump over here and get back to our chart. And there we go. So don't pay attention to these numbers down here. These are in relation to your maximum sprinting speed, as opposed to my charts, which I've created, which are in relation to your 6-minute field test for VVO2. So as I said in the last video, zone 2 is we're in a steady state, which means we can continue at that pace for long periods of time, and the blood lactate won't really pick up. And since blood is leaving my running muscles and it's being processed in other parts of my body, the lactate shuttle is working. And the further I go over here, the harder the lactate shuttle is having to work, and the more practice it's getting doing what it needs to do to keep you running at a fast pace without getting fatigued. So some of our most effective training paces that are high enough intensity to get a good effect, but low enough in intensity that we can do them for a long time, are going to be found right around in here. And if I can just sort of point this out, I wish I had the drawing tool on here, but 75%, we're going to call that on our team, we're going to call that easy tempo. Okay? And that's going to be about right here. And that would be, I think, sheet 9 on our pace chart. 80% is what we're going to call tempo. And you can see that there's a lot of other names that people give these, but we're just going to call it tempo. And that's going to be somewhere right around here. For work that's done right at lactate turn point 2, right at what we call the anaerobic threshold, 85% is going to be right around that level. And we're going to call that threshold work. Other people call it tempo. Tempo gets thrown around and people don't really know what they're saying a lot of the times. And then if we're just past so if we're at the level where lactate is starting to build up, but it's building slowly, we're at about 90% of our VVO2 max there. And we're going to call that critical velocity. So those paces are super important for us. They're not the only paces we're going to train at by any means, but they are very, very important paces. At 75%, if you're well trained, you should be able to run at that pace for 70, 80 minutes in a training run. It would be a hard training run. A lot of times maybe you're going to run 30 or 40 minutes at that pace, but that would be appropriate. At 80%, we might be looking at 30 to 35, maybe 40 minutes if you're really a mileage grinder. At 85%, we probably wouldn't run any more than 20 minutes straight at that pace. We might even break it up into intervals. At 90%, we wouldn't run usually any more than 5 minutes at that pace. Usually we do it in intervals of 3 minutes with about a minute recovery. 95% is probably going to be close to your 2-mile race pace. If you're a stud, it might be closer to your 5K race pace. 100%, depending on who you are, that could be mile race pace. It could be a little slower than mile race pace. It could be faster than your mile race pace. It's tied to your 6-minute time trial. And then the paces that are above that, we'll touch on them, but fairly infrequently. So I want you to understand that when we do stuff, but when you see 85% or 90%, it's tied to these pace charts, and it's tied to the time. It's tied to your result that you've already achieved on the time trial. Okay, we train at the appropriate level, which is where we're already at. And I hope that was helpful.